Hello and welcome to Table Talk, a show where I chat with other creators in the TTRPG space about how they run their tables. I'm Danger Dan Jers, the GM and host of D&Dark, and joining us at the table today are 60% of the cast of 5 GMs in a Trenchcoat. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
To get us started, can you introduce each of yourselves, tell us a little bit about your history in TTRPGs, and about your show, 5 GMs in a Trenchcoat?
I guess I'll start. I'm Jesse. My history with TTRPGs is that when I got into college, my friends and I needed something cheap we could do together because we were all in college and couldn't afford to do stuff. And then it kind of took off from there.
A classic tale.
Hi, I'm Tanlynn. Hi, I'm Tanlynn. Hi, yes, that's me. Okay. Hey, hi. I guess my history with TTRPGs is it all stems back to two people, which is GM Adam, who's not here, and my older brother who got Adam into it also, which also knows Jesse.
He was one of my friends in college that we knew we needed something to do.
Nice. Is that how the bulk of you met for the show, was through college?
Not really, because I'm friends with her brother. Her brother's friends with, obviously, her, because she's, and then Adam. So, that's kind of how I got connected to them.
Gotcha. So largely just pre-existing relationships and connections.
Yeah. This is the fun part of explaining our fun, I don't want to say family tree, but relationship tree in the Trenchcoat. So hi, I'm Kim. My relationship with TTRPGs actually stems from Adam, who's not here. We started dating around 5 years ago, and he was really into tabletop games and Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. And I had always had an interest in D&D and stuff like that, but I never had anyone to teach me. And Adam was like, if you're down, I'm super down to teach you. And so he started running a game for me. And then Jesse was in it and Tanlynn was in it, along with a couple of our other friends. So before we started doing the podcast, we were in a home game together for about 2 years. And then Adam was like, hey, I have this crazy idea that I've always wanted to do, but I've never had the right people to do it. Would you guys like to start a podcast together? We always reference him as the Nick Fury of the group because he assembled us all. He assembled myself, Jesse, Tanlynn, and then originally our other friend from college, Tanner. And then we started doing the podcast. And so we were like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do a fun podcast where we rotate GMs and tabletop systems because there's so many different things out there. And we all have different storytelling styles. So we thought that'd be really fun to showcase.
That is a much smarter way to go about it than the way D&Dark did. We basically dove directly into the deep end. So you're hearing a lot of the cast are playing for the first time on mic.
Oh, God.
It was real deep end training and took us a little bit to find our footing, but I really like where we ended up. And I feel like once we got on our rhythm and groove, then we were moving and cooking. But very wise to start with a group that you already know the chemistry for and already have a bit of experience playing the game with.
Well, if you want some deep lore.
Oh, God.
Adam and I actually started a podcast a long time ago, a D&D podcast. It was me and him and a couple other friends, and it was terrible. We kind of did the same thing where we played a few times and we got this. We just had one mic and just played. It's awful. I remember I listened back to it a couple years ago, and it's not even so bad it's good. It's just bad. So it was bad. And luckily, eventually I ended up screwing it up and then deleted a bunch of the audio files, and it was oh well. I guess that's that.
Oopsie daisy.
Well, hey, that gives you a really good jumping off point. There's a concept that I've heard recently in terms of artistic endeavors that cringe is the cost of entry.
Oh, yeah.
So,
oh, God.
being able to get that out of the way early and get over the fear of we don't know what we're doing, this is not good, I'm sure was a huge help and boon for jumping into 5 GMs.
I don't know. It was still there.
Yeah, it still did take a bit.
It took a bit because we also further back lore. So Adam and Jesse were doing a cryptids podcast during the pandemic. So they had experience chatting with each other on mic. Adam and I did a small stint of another D&D actual play podcast a little bit before we started 5GM, so I had a little bit of on-mic performance experience, but for the most part, we all hadn't really performed in front of a mic before. So that was also a big thing for us to learn. I love our first season. She's very near and dear to my heart, but you can so tell the learning curves that you can hear us doing throughout, just like in terms of being comfortable role playing with like the knowledge of something in front of you and it's being recorded. Because there were multiple instances, I know with Tanlynn in particular, who would like do things and be like, I'm sorry I did that. And we're like, dude, we're so good. We're so fine, actually. We're so solid. She's like, and they all hated me. And we're like, we promise we do not hate you.
It's a well-trod meme in our group chat. The scene from Meet the Robinsons of Goob going down the hallways and everyone's like, oh, hey, Goob, it's good to see it. Great play in the game that day. They all hated me. That meme gets a lot of play in our group chat. So I understand that feeling big time.
That's literally any of us after we GM. And we're like, no, we're having so much fun. You don't have to be sad about it, I promise.
Let's get into some specifics about 5 GMs. Basically, with the 5 of you taking turns rotating being GM and rotating systems, baking in the versatility into the core of your show. Can you tell me a little bit about how that kind of came about, what the setup was for that, and what you consider when you're deciding what story you want to tell, GM'd by who, in what system?
Oh God, I feel like that's different for each of us. I'm going to make Tanlynn go first because she hasn't said anything in a second. So I'm sorry, I'm going to put you on the spot.
How dare you do this to me? I think it's a lot of our own personality goes into each and every like choice that's made in the background. Like, for Jesse, he likes the crunchy games. He likes history. He chose Cyberpunk Red for his first like delve into our what have we been calling it? We've been calling it like our collective or something for the first chunk of seasons for 5 GMs.
I think we just call them the collections.
Yeah, the collections. I don't know. I think something really flagrant and dumb. We should find out a word for that. But choosing Cyberpunk Red and then going with the story that he went with is very personal to him. For me, I know D&D and I felt most comfortable GMing D&D. So it's like, if I'm going to go on a mic, I might as well just do something I know first. And then the story that I was telling, it's very personal, like horror. I like horror. I like nitty gritty sort of things. So that is kind of what goes into it for me, at least what I've noticed for us.
Yeah, I think that's the fun part about our show is that we're all so different in terms of GMing, but also because we're such good friends as well, the chemistry there is super fun. And I know each of us kind of go about picking a system for each season differently. I know for me, I sometimes will start with the vibe or the kind of story I want to tell and seeing what system I want it to work with it. And so like for my season, I really wanted to tell some kind of like Gotham-esque noir, faction-y sort of story. And so I was like, well, what kind of systems work for that kind of vibe that I wanted? And I'd heard a lot about Blades in the Dark before. And I was like, well, I've always wanted to try Blades in the Dark. And then I looked into Blades in the Dark and I was like, oh, I kind of love Blades in the Dark. And so it ended up working really well for my season and that sort of thing. So I know that I go for vibes first and then I see if there's a system that'll work for it. Like Tanlynn said that she's comfortable with D&D and so that's what she went with. But I know going forward now, since we've had a little bit more experience under our belt, it's a little bit more like I know Tan's going a little bit more vibe and seeing what system sort of fits and that sort of thing. So I think that's the really fun part about our show is that we're all so very different and we haven't put the same thing out against one another since, honestly, because our first season was like fantasy, Dragon Riders, and Fate. And then second season was Jesse doing Cyberpunk Red. Tanlynn did Dark Fantasy and D&D. I did like noir in Blades in the Dark. And then we're currently doing retro 80s horror and Kids on Bikes. So it's all very different genres depending on what you like.
Yeah, and Cyberpunk, I just played the game Cyberpunk and was like, that seems fun. Let's do that.
It was like perfect for you because it has all the faction and history and stuff that you like. And then there's so many numbers and so much tech involved. It was, yeah. I'm glad we had you there to like coach us through it because I wouldn't have been able to do it.
When we did it, I was like, I'm going to make the characters because like I don't want them getting lost in these character sheets. So I'm just going to do it
fast.
I'm sure that you're similar to me in that you experience a big pivotal piece of media and immediately your first thought is, how can I use this? For me, I am currently going through the Alan Wake series right now and immediately constant knee-jerk reactions of, I got to remember this. How do I use this? How can I bring this to my games? And what about this do I want to retrofit into our stories? Our current interstitial campaign that we're putting out right now, that we're almost done with as of the time of this interview, is one in the Dark Souls TTRPG system. And Ben, who's GMing that, basically saw that there was a Dark Souls TTRPG, loves the Dark Souls franchise, and basically just said, I wanna. And that was the end of that. You can tell a lot about a GM from the systems they gravitate towards. So how would you describe each other as GMs?
So we recently did what's the Bridgerton game called?
Good Society.
Good Society. It was really fun because Kim was just like treating it like she's watching a TV show. Like the whole time she's giggling. It's really funny. Like when you listen to it, you just hear her like, ooh, she giggles all the time.
I'm having fun.
She's really good at the balance of like hands off, letting a scene play out, but like still keeping things on track. And for Tanlynn, for her game, I just loved like all the weird situations she put us in. Like they were very non-traditional D&D situations. Like there was a part where we had to fight this weird like womb creature thing, and then I get attacked by babies and I'm getting my butt kicked by them. And so I'm like, well, maybe I should try to like play with them. Maybe they're still just babies, and that worked. So it's just sort of these like really off the wall situations that Tanlynn likes to put us in, and like gives us many different ways to solve these situations.
Talk about Adam, quick.
Oh, and then Adam.
He can't defend himself.
Adam, I hate Adam. Kidding, I love him. I mean, he makes everything feel grounded. I feel like I'm there when he's DMing. So I can't really explain it well. It's just one of those feelings you get when you're just like, oh, I'm here. I'm this character. I'm doing this thing. It feels grounded.
Yeah, I think other people have talked about it that aren't a part of our podcast that have like been guests. He captures like a party well. Like he gets the attention of players and makes them like engage in a way that a lot of people have a hard time doing. He just does it naturally, and I look up to him. Don't tell him I said that.
Yeah, don't tell him I said anything good about him.
Yeah, don't post it. Cut this part out.
Start bleeping it so it makes it sound like we're saying mean things.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'll clip out the beginning where you said, I hate Adam, and cut everything else.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
that works, actually.
yes.
Yeah. Just change the pitch and stuff for them.
And then to say my piece about Kim, I think fantastic role player, fantastic. Yes, and like just on her feet, quick with it. I think during her main campaign, there was a part where she had nothing for it, but we kept going after it with these two kids. Was it kids? Okay, Kim, you got to explain it for me.
Yeah. Okay. So I put a MacGuffin in front of you guys to get you out of the situation. And I was like, well, this is just going to be a MacGuffin and this is fine. And my bad for forgetting that all of you are like, they're children. We need to help the children. So I didn't have a ton fleshed out for them. And so I was like, dang it, this is my bad for not preparing anything for them. And so they just kind of kept following that thread. And so I just kind of kept making things up for them to just have lore for them. And I was like, well, if you're going to keep following this thread, I'll keep giving you things, I suppose.
It was like an entire episode and a half of just her having to make stuff up on the fly. And I didn't even know. It was fantastic.
And now you have to talk about Jesse.
I hate him.
Oh, I get it.
No, I love Jesse. I love his balance with bringing like real world situations that he knows about because he's a history buff and he's a nerd into like whatever system we're in. It's a talent. Because I could never do that. I can't even talk. So
I've never spoken a day in my life. Oh gosh, I admire you guys so much as GMs. I steal so heavily from all three of them. It's kind of crazy because like I said, I hadn't done anything in terms of TTRPGs before I started doing like this podcast and doing the home games with them. And so it was a real delight, honestly, seeing everyone GM before me. And so the one thing I absolutely adore about Jesse is the way that he can keep up banter. He's so like quick in terms of like quips and like, okay, so in Cyberpunk Red, in our series, we have this long-standing bit because it was a sniper and then Adam's character, and they were going back and forth. And Adam's character was like, well, what do you like to do? What are your favorite hobbies? Like, what do you do when you're not sniping people? And Jesse was like, well, I like to bake. And so it became a whole thing where we got that NPC known as Sourdough Joe. And then it carries throughout the series in which a Sourdough Joe comes back. And then at the very end, he opens his own bakery and gives up the sniping life. And it's just so funny. And just the way that how fast Jesse can respond to like you saying some ridiculous things to him is very impressive. For Tanlynn, I would just have to say I love the way Tanlynn crafts encounters, because one of the things about D&D that, like, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of running D&D, but I just don't love running combat personally, which is why some of my favorite systems aren't very combat heavy. But the way that Tanlynn crafts encounters to be so dynamic was one of my favorite parts of doing her season, is that they were never just straight like, and here's a boss fight. It was always like, here's a fight, but there's also alternative ways to get out of it, which is one of my favorite ways to also do combat when I'm doing D&D. It's just like, it's not just violence. There's some other ways to do it that aren't just violence. And so that's something that I really appreciate about Tanlynn and when she's crafting her encounters in sort of any system we've done so far. And Adam, you know, hate that guy. I always joke, but I always mean it with so much heart, is that I think he's the best of us. The way in which he is able to create a whole world in the way that Jesse said, that makes it feel grounded and makes it feel very real. And just the way that he also can like, yes, and is also incredibly impressive, because, you know, you can just say like, and here's my thing about this my character, and here's, I'm sliding it in front of your desk. And he's like, yeah, dude, go for it. And then we'll like an episode or so later, we'll like start incorporating those little breadcrumbs and things like that too. I look up to the three of you a lot when I GM, and I steal a lot. So, you know, if you ever are hearing me GM and you're like, that sounds an awful like something I've heard Tanlynn do, that's why.
Fantastic. The chemistry that your podcast has it's very apparent and really strong. It very much comes through. I will kind of selfishly, to not leave my podcast out of this, I'm going to do the same thing and give my flowers to all of my cast while they can't defend themselves.
As you should. Put them on the spot.
Going down the line rapid fire, Aaron, who plays the Phantom of the Opera, is one of the funniest people I know. He is phenomenal at doing comedic relief and bits, and has a really good narrative sense for knowing the timing of when to be serious and when to be silly. And that lends itself very well to his comedic stylings. He is very, very good at that. Grayson, who plays the Invisible Man, he commits harder than most people that I know. He puts 110% of himself into everything. There's a lot of intensity in what he does. A thing that we've joked about a whole bunch is during his character-centric arc, when we've got our section going through Big Ben, there was a part of it where I asked him to, like, I need you to come up with, like, a decently plausible, good enough explanation for how the Invisible Man's invisibility, like, serum procedure works, so that on our show we can kind of recreate the process. It doesn't have to be anything, just as long as it sounds feasible, that's fine. He then basically wrote up a dissertation looking into the physics of light refraction in biochemistry and a little bit into like nuclear physics to try to come up with a scientifically feasible. He came just shy of actually inventing the damn thing. And that is just kind of the way that his brain works. When he commits, he locks in. Ben, who plays the Frankenstein monster, brings an energy to the show and to what he does that is unmatched. He is our show's hype man. The way that a lot of shows will start off and do a like mic check to sync everybody up, everybody will do the like 1, 2, 3 clap. Our way of doing that is we start our recordings with him yelling at the top of his lungs, "Are you motherfuckers ready for some D&D?" And then we all cheer, and that's how I sync up our audio. I feel like that tells you basically all you need to know about Ben. He's a really good hype man, and similarly, he's very intense in his role play and brings a lot into the acting that he does with each of his characters. He really goes all out into the emotional core of the characters. And as far as emotional cores go, Jordan, who plays the Wolfman, she is an expert at tugging on the heartstrings and on playing really emotionally resonant characters. She also, just as a GM, the way that she's described her GM style is she likes to set up a difficult, fraught situation, drop us in, and then just see what happens. And whatever happens, happens. I've taken a lot of inspiration as far as my own GMing style goes from that approach and that way of doing things. And then Daniel, who plays Imhotep the Mummy, Daniel is a very smart player. I would describe him as one of the cleverer players that I've encountered, both in the podcast and out of it. As a GM, he loves his bag of tricks. A thing that we both have in common is we're both sticklers for fast pace. And so he loves to resort to pulling from a bag of tricks in order to keep momentum fast and keep us going. So that is my praise for my cast.
Round of applause. Round of applause. Yes.
So to swing it back to 5 GMs in a trench coat, you've done Kids on Bikes, Blades in the Dark, Cyberpunk Red, Fate, as well as other bonus interstitial stories in other systems. If you could just kind of rapid fire go through, this was this GM season in this system, and this is what the system was, and this is what the story was.
Oh God, we have so many. Tanlynn, you love season 1. I'm making you do that one.
I have to do it for Tanner. R.I.P. He ain't dead, but he's our bestest buddy, but he ain't a part of the podcast no more. Season 1 is Fate Core, which is very rules light D6 sort of system, but it's not D6s, it's like pluses and minuses. And this is me recalling because I haven't played it in a very long time. And Tanner did a lot of homebrewing for it, especially for his world, but it was dragons, dragon riders, a rebellion, and a what's the word for like a tyrannic
empire.
Empire. There we go. There we go. It was Star Wars, but it was dragons. He'll be so mad. He'll be so mad about that. It was Star Wars, but it wasn't Star Wars. It was dragons.
It's a really effective shorthand. My favorite game of all time is Final Fantasy VI. In a sentence, if I were to describe it with that kind of shorthand, it's Star Wars, but halfway through, the Emperor dies and is replaced by the Joker. And that's my favorite game of all time, and I hate how effective of a shorthand Star Wars, but blank is for summing something up like that. So I get it.
Well, because, all the stories that could ever be told have been told, and most of them are in Star Wars. And I will die on that hill. All right, someone else go.
Well, mine was the second season, so I guess I'll do mine. So I did Cyberpunk Red. People who are familiar with Cyberpunk, the video game takes place in 2077. This one takes place in 2045, I believe. This is the 2040s. I don't remember exactly when. But it's kind of post-apocalyptic. It's after the corporate war, and the world is all bad because it's all torn apart by this corporate war. Yeah, it was the whole thing was just the sort of theme about it was that all the main villains, their sort of flaws that they believe in the corporations, the megacorps. It was
bad the whole time.
Yeah, they believe that the megacorps, because they had their backing, that the megacorps cared about them and that they were untouchable. But then it turns out that's not true. So that's kind of the main theme and what connects all the villains.
And I had to worry about rent in that game. It was so stressful. It was so stressful.
There's a joke that it's referred to as poverty simulator because of that. Yeah, and you could go crazy if you're too sad. So you gotta keep things going. The game itself is you have a lot of stats, but a whole bunch of them are social stats. So there's a lot of resisting being tortured, resisting drugs and persuasions and all this. So the game itself is a little more complicated than I usually like, but I think it kind of fits the whole thing. And having to build your character, because if you have too much cyber on you, you go crazy. So it's all about trying not to be poor and not going crazy.
Very relatable.
Yeah, it gets a little too relatable sometimes. It's upsetting. It was kind of funny because Tanlynn played a corporate person. And so one of the things is that like you could just do like side jobs if you don't do something for a week. And hers was they just sent her a paycheck and she just sat around the house and everyone's upset. Well, because everyone else, I think, rolled bad that one. So everyone else did all this stuff but didn't make much money. And then they just sent her a bonus check just because. So it's just really interesting, like what the different characters are in this world and how they fit.
Is it back on me?
Mm-hmm.
Season 3. So long ago. It was D&D, so it was everything everyone already knows all the time already. Except it was it wasn't Star Wars. It was like a grimdark sort of fantasy setting where everyone sucks. But what if the bad guys were the good guys? # Suicide Squad? I don't know. I kind of described it as like, what if we did Suicide Squad in D&D? So it's has started out in prison, or it is in prison. We're starting in a prison. And from there, they become heroes, ? I don't know. And everyone sucks. Everyone's the worst person you've ever met. And either you kill them with kindness or you kill them with your sword.
Hey, and there may or may not be Mpreg in it. So.
Oh.
I was really into Resident Evil. What was it? Is it 8 that has the big evil baby in it?
That is 8. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was really into that, and I really like gross like body horror. So at the time, there's a lot of that in it. There's a lot of like trigger warnings in the beginning of each episode because that's how I roll. So consume the media at your own cost. That's how I am.
Oh gosh, the goo babies. Yeah. My season was season 4. We played Blades in the Dark. Blades in the Dark is a very fun, like fast-paced, I would call it like a heist system, pretty much. You have 2d6 and you roll them and you add them together to do things. But the big appeal of Blades in the Dark is that when you're doing a job, is that you can have a flashback system. And that's basically like, I prepared for this. I have a thing. And you roll, of course, to see if you successfully do the thing. But so you don't have to take 5 years in the planning stage. You can just kind of throw them in the situation and then be like, well, you can think of a solution if I tell you the door is locked. And then you could tell me who you know to see how you would have either the lockpick or how you'd have plans, that sort of thing. Blades in the Dark, very fun. I'm a big proponent for Blades in the Dark. But my season was basically, I took a lot of inspiration for mine from like Batman and like Gotham and such, because I do have a soft spot for like film noir and stuff like that. And my mom would watch a lot of like Batman stuff in the background when I was growing up. So there's a lot of inspiration there, but it's basically there's a bunch of different sort of factions that are vying for like the top spot. And our group kind of gets summoned by one of them as they hear that the Big Four are doing some maybe fishy things with some maybe fishy magical demonic artifacts. So that's the gist of my season. It was a lot of fun to play out. I'm trying to figure out who wants to do Adams, because Adam's not here to defend himself.
I think Jesse wants to do it because Tanlynn has talked a lot for Tanlynn.
Okay. So yeah, we're doing Kids on Bikes. It's a pretty interesting like little system where you can fail and then you get like these little tokens so you could re-roll later on. So it is like you do kind of keep moving on sometimes, you know, you're like, uh-oh. And so it's sort of like a Scooby-Doo kind of thing. We're just going across America and we're stumbling upon all kinds of things and all these cryptids and ghosts and monsters and such. And it's kind of funny because at the beginning I kept missing all the paranormal stuff. So they were encountering all this weird stuff. And I'd be like, what are you guys talking about? There's literally, I saw a big bird.
Oh my God. I wanted to be like, Jesse, I'm going to reach over the table and I'm going to fight you right now.
Yeah, so it's sort of fun, but then it gets kind of serious at times. Like, we made it so our characters like kind of we knew each other for our growing up, and so our characters have history, and some of it's kind of rocky. So just kind of that fun little like monster of the day kind of story.
That's so fun. I love how varied each of your campaigns are and like the different scope and focus that each of them has. That's one of my favorite things about doing interstitial bonus content is the opportunity to try out other systems and other shows that are kind of off genre and off of what our main campaign is. For any potential upcoming seasons, do any of you have a bucket list of other systems or other stories that you want to hit or touch on?
I mean, I'm planning to do Star Wars because I love Star Wars too.
Something I'm passionate about. I want to do Rootin' Tootin' Cowboys. I have yet to find a system that does Rootin' Tootin' Cowboys the way I want it. So that's something that I need to figure out.
And I want to be a snake oil salesman, so make sure that's
so that's not happening anytime soon, but I want it. I want it badly.
Yeah, I know Adam is in the talks of us doing a sports season.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really excited for that one. He's been tossing out like varied sports that we'd be teams for. And I'm like, hey, I love me a good sports thing. Tanlynn's also been talking about doing vampires at some point. I want to be a messy eternal vampire so bad.
It's fun.
I want to get my little hands in there and just be a messy eternal vampire. Yeah. And then I know for my next season, we are actually making a system. So that'll be fun.
Ooh.
Oh, I won't give too much away about that because we're still in development for that, but it's coming. And I'm very excited.
Obviously, don't go into any details you don't want to spoil, but just out of curiosity, are you building it from the ground up? Are you using something like GURPS where you've got like a system builder that you're attaching things onto, or is it entirely from scratch?
No, it's entirely from scratch. It's a lot of work. But Adam is our like main game design guy, and he was like, I'd love to do that. And I have like this sort of concept in mind of like us being like little spirits and such like that. But there's a certain way I want the game progression to go that I don't think is out there yet. And so we're sort of crafting that together. So that'll be super fun.
It is a blast to make your own games. Before getting into D&D, my COVID pandemic hobby was I got into the homebrew scene for the board and card game Disney Villainous. There was a very active homebrew scene for that to make your own builds and make your own like little miniature games within that confine and structure. So there was a ton of fun that I got from that. And within the TTRPG space, there's a thing that I'm toying around with Jordan right now. We've kind of put together our own little mini system from scratch for just one-shots or a thing to insert into bigger campaigns that is a speed racer, wacky races style, high-octane vehicle race simulator. It's still, as of now, we're still relatively early on. We haven't been able to play test it yet, but we've got like a short little 5-page document for our proposed game plan for that. And it's been a blast to throw together. So I'm excited to see what you cobble together, and I know how fun that process can be.
Yeah, it's super fun because we've been just doing a bunch of like pre-development stuff of like going over just basic rules and stuff like that. And Tanlynn came up with like some of the mock-up art and stuff like that. And so just the pre like development stuff is so much fun to like watch the puzzle pieces kind of find their places.
Absolutely. With all of that in mind, with like where you want to go and where you have been, for any new listeners wanting to approach 5GMs in a trench coat, where would you point them to as a good place to start?
I think Tanlynn's, because it's D&D, so like it's the general setting is familiar, but like the story is very different, and I think it does like showcase each of us in like very out there characters. So I think it's a good showcase of like to get someone in because they get D&D, but it's something completely different. But then you still get like an idea of what each of us are like, our play styles. And not our first season. It's a bit rough to start out with, unfortunately. Like we had a lot of growing pains in the first season. Listen to the other ones that go back. I swear it gets the quality gets a lot better as it goes on. It's just that first bit's kind of rough.
Steer far away from my season. It's so scary and nasty. Please, it's not who I am. I know I said it's who I am. I can change. No, it is a really good, that's true. It's a good showcase of the players, at least. Like Adam, Kim, and Jesse do a really fantastic job in it. For me, I just want to say season 5 because my bestie Adam is doing a fantastic job running Kids on Bikes. And I think my castmates are fantastic in it as well. It's like the best of our work. And I know it's what's happening right now. And maybe that's why I'm saying that, but I don't think so. I think it's fantastic. I think we should start there. Start at the end and then work your way back to season 1 and don't judge us too hard.
Oh God, I love that the consensus is like, again, season 1 has a very special place in my heart. She does have a lot of growing pains in there. So yeah, maybe start with something a little more recent and then go back. Because if you start there, you might be like, oh guys. And I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you. Oh gosh, I remember because you sent these questions beforehand and I read this question and I went, oh no, you're making me choose. I have decision paralysis. You cannot do this to me. You're pitting my children against each other. I love all of them for very different reasons, but I think I do have to agree with Tanlynn because we are kind of in our bag for season 5 and like we're in our smoothest groove, I think, that we've had so far on the podcast. And it's just a really fun time. And also Kids on Bikes is a fairly simple system. And so it's not anything too crazy or crunchy that you would have to like pick up or like learn as you're listening. And I just think we do a lot of really cool character work in the season we've been doing so far. So like, if that's where you want to start, I would suggest there. I really love the Good Society miniseries we did. If you want something shorter, it's only 5 episodes. It's a lot of fun. Since Good Society is a diceless system, that one's extremely easy to pick up. It's also so much fun. If you love drama, oh my God, it's so much drama, so much romance, and so much yearning. If that's up your alley, you're going to love that one. And also, as Jesse said, you can hear me giggling the entire time because I'm like, and now kiss, and now kiss. Me in the background orchestrating things. So yeah, I also think that's a good jumping off point too.
And we're trying to convince Kim to do it for every Christmas. So
listen, I said that I'll do it again this year for Christmas. That might be the new tradition. I don't know.
Look, I think it should be. I love doing that one. That was fun.
Some of our best stuff were our holiday specials. What I usually point people to for D&Dark is our mini campaign Call of Cthulhu-Doo, where we did a Scooby-Doo mystery where the players were Mystery Inc. in the Call of Cthulhu system. Our second Halloween special is Muppet Alien, where we're playing the pre-written module Chariot of the Gods, which has pre-built characters in it. So the pre-built and pre-baked characters are played by Muppets, and it's as if the whole thing is a filmed special for the Muppet Show. Our current interstitial campaign, D&Dark Souls, is in the Dark Souls system and setting. It's a dark fantasy fairy tale. Ben really wanted to do a Kingdom Hearts game, and I encouraged him to broaden it out a bit more to general fairy tales and less Disney. It's still very Disney, and it's basically Disney Dark Souls. It's a very fun one, very combat heavy, much more dramatic than a lot of our campaigns tend to go, but it's been a very interesting experiment and experience that we've learned a lot from. We did a Kids on Bikes one a little bit earlier in the year that was our one and only single sitting one shot. That was just a classic Agatha Christie whodunit. We all played detective archetypes, and so we had like an Inspector Gadget, we had a Columbo, we had a noir cop, we had a Simon Pegg from Hot Fuzz, kind of fresh out of the academy, by the books detective. So that was a ton of fun. I usually, for our show, point people to start with one of our bonus one-shots or mini campaigns, and then jump into the main show. They're low commitment, they're lower episode counts, and it's a good sense of our sense of humor. So it's generally my go-to. I even put a whole page on our website about recommended starting points for getting into and on-ramping onto the show, just because the beginning of our first campaign has some growing pains, and there's a lot of... It's both a pro and a con that you can see us grow in real time and get more comfortable with the game, but there's definitely a leap in production quality and in our own personal skill. So I usually steer people towards later episodes that are a bit more polished than when we started.
That's so valid. Because, yeah, I get it.
So keeping an eye on time, we're starting to run up on the clock. If there's any other topics that you all want to broach, any things that you want to make sure that we cover, any things that you don't want left unsaid, any miscellaneous things that you would want to add, now is the time.
Everything is Star Wars. Don't forget that. Keep it in your heart. And that's all I have to say.
Just watch Star Wars. You'll get everything else. You don't need to listen to the podcast. Yeah. Just watch Star Wars, you guys.
It's actually just a push to watch Star Wars. That's the long con of our podcast, actually.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything else really. I think we covered most of it. If we seem like your sort of jam, you should listen to us, please. We're a lot of fun, I promise.
All right. And on that note, can you remind our listeners where they can find your show?
Most places you can find us at the number 5, GMs in a Trenchcoat. You can look up 5gemsinatrenchcoat.com to find our website. If you want to find our playlists for all of our seasons and stuff like that, want to get to know about us a little bit more, we have all of Tanlynn's art on that website. Tanlynn does all of our character art, most of our cover art, stuff like that. And we also have really cool animatics for each season that we do. So check that out for sure. You can find us on social media, most places at 5 Gems in a Trenchcoat. I believe on Blue Sky, we're at 5 Gems Official because 5 Gems in a Trenchcoat was too long for Blue Sky. So they said, no. And I was like, okay, I guess, fine. But yeah, that's where you can find most of us. And then on all of our stuff, you can find our personal socials as well if you like our vibes as well.
All right. Well, thank you again. All of those links will be in the description. And thank you again for coming by to chat with me. This has been a ton of fun.
Yay. Thank you for having us.
We had a great time.
Absolutely. And thank you, all of you, for listening. One more time, everybody. I'm Danger Dan Jers, the GM and host of D&Dark. I've been chatting with 3 out of 5 GMs in a Trenchcoat, and this has been Table Talk. And I hope you enjoyed what we brought to the table.
And may the force be with you.
And may the force be with you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Table Talk, created, hosted, and edited by myself, Danger Dan Jers, with artwork by Jordan Nelson. Our guests this episode were the cast of 5 GMs in a Trenchcoat. Links to their work can be found in the episode description. If you're interested in being a guest on this show, reach out to us at dndarkpodcast@gmail.com. Our theme song and outro were created by Jeremy Vellucci. Check out more of his works on Instagram at JeremyVellucci_Wreck of Time. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time we have a guest take a seat at the table.